couple days, though. He missed like a game or two, so I felt real bad. But dog, and then so look, it carried over.
So you hyped the nigga to get slammed on his biscuit? That's some Philly shit.
Yeah, I did. I told you, me and Bonzi, we gassed it up, so it carries over. So boom, all right, Zach gets better, and it carries over to practice, right?
The GOAT debate just got vicious. NBA legend and notorious truth-teller Rasheed Wallace has dropped a nuclear take, and he aimed it directly at the King's crown. In a shocking, no-holds-barred interview, Sheed didn't just compare LeBron to MJ, he torched the very idea that LeBron could ever earn that level of respect. His words weren't criticism, they were a funeral for a legacy. This is the brutal, unfiltered takedown that's dividing the basketball world, and the reason why, deep down, LeBron knows he might never win this war.
Pants and his shirt, his shorts and his shirt, I picked him up off the ground.
Come here, little boy.
I picked CP up off the ground.
Oh, that's a game of Melvin?
No, that's embarrassing, bro.
For the little dude.
Yeah, that's embarrassing, man. Come on, get up, little fella. Sorry about that.
He was hot, too.
Let's go to the opposite side.
And we was kicking their ass, too? Oh, yeah.
What did David Stern do when he handed you that trophy?
Yo, and I want y'all to go back. Y'all can go back and look at this. So,
The setting was a no-frills underground basketball podcast known for its raw, unfiltered conversations. The guest was Rasheed Wallace, the volatile, brilliant champion from the 2004 Detroit Pistons. The host, tiptoeing into the tired MJ-LeBron debate, asked a simple question. Can anyone ever get the respect Jordan has? Sheed didn't pause. He leaned into the mic, and with the casual certainty of someone stating the sky is blue, he detonated his bomb. Nah, hell nah, and especially not him. Look, Bron is phenomenal, one of the best to ever do it. Stats, longevity, all that. But respect? MJ-level respect? That ain't about stats. That's about fear. That's about walking into a building and the other team's game plan is praying he has an off night because they know they can't stop him. That's about a whole generation of all-stars who got their souls snatched and have the therapy bills to prove it. Bron made dudes better. MJ made dudes quit. That's a different religion. The host, stunned, tried to interject about leadership and playmaking. Wallace cut him off. He's a CEO, a brilliant one. He built super teams, he managed rosters, he's an empire. Mike was a warlord, he conquered. You don't respect a CEO like you fear a warlord. You might admire what Bron built, but you'll never respect him the way you respect the guy who looked you in your eye, knew he was taking your lunch money, and you thanked him for it. That respect is earned in blood and tears, not in boardrooms, and Bron ain't never getting that stamp. The clip was isolated, stripped of context, and set loose. Rasheed Wallace, LeBron is a CEO, MJ was a warlord, trended within the hour. It wasn't just another hot take, it was a linguistic weaponization of the debate. Wallace, a champion who battled both eras, had given Jordan's side the perfect, brutal vocabulary. CEO versus warlord, management versus conquest. It was a framing so vivid and damning, it threatened to overwrite 2 decades of LeBron's narrative. The vocabulary of the debate was just changed forever. But this attack cut deeper than basketball. It targeted the very psychology of LeBron's career. To understand why this hurts, you have to go back to the beginning, the story of a prophecy LeBron has been running from since he was a teenager. This gets personal. Subscribe to see why.
In my era, he probably would have done good because with his physical stature, with him being a little bit bigger than a majority of the rest. So he probably would have held his own, but I don't think he would have been as successful as he is now. Like now is, man, you know what I mean?
That's
Like
a violation. That's a violation.
You love it when guys.
That's a violation.
But when you older, when guys take your space from you, that's like the worst. You can't do the moves you.
To understand why Sheed's CEO label is a wound, you have to go back to the origin story. LeBron James entered the global consciousness not just as a player, but as the chosen one. It was emblazoned on the cover of Sports Illustrated when he was just 17. The prophecy wasn't that he would be a great teammate or a savvy businessman. It was that he would be the heir, the next transcendent, dominant force who would take over. The expectation was conquest, not curation. For the first half of his career, he chased that singular, Jordan-esque dominion. He was the unstoppable physical force in Cleveland, a one-man army. But after the decision, the narrative, and his own approach subtly shifted. In Miami, he became more efficient, more strategic. In his return to Cleveland and his move to LA, he evolved into the ultimate playmaking architect, building contenders through will, intelligence, and force of personality. He didn't just want to win, he wanted to build winning machines. This was the birth of the CEO. But in the eyes of the old guard, players like Rasheed Wallace, who came up in the ruthless mano-a-mano 90s, this evolution looked like a retreat from the prophecy. To them, the chosen one was supposed to be a conqueror who took what he wanted, not a builder who assembled what he needed. Sheed's comment exposed this fundamental, decades-old tension. LeBron fulfilled a destiny, but it might have been the wrong destiny. He became the greatest executive athlete in sports history, but in doing so, he may have abdicated the throne of the untouchable, fear-inducing killer they expected. The CEO label isn't just an insult, it's an accusation that he chose boardroom brilliance over back-alley battle, and that choice, in their eyes, permanently disqualifies him from the highest, most brutal form of respect. This isn't just about Rasheed's opinion. He's giving voice to a silent, powerful faction within the NBA's old school, a faction that includes the one man whose opinion matters most. The reaction from LeBron's contemporaries is where the real story begins. The league is choosing sides. Don't miss the fallout. Subscribe now.
It's going to happen, but it's going to be fun watching. That's the beauty of sports. You get to sit back and watch in real time.
If I was JJ Redick, I would literally bubble wrap him and basically have an army escort to and from. Why would you even want to see him on the court? You know exactly what he's going to do. Luke is basically working out 27 hours a day. I think what he's doing makes a lot of sense. I mean, right? I'm not wrong here.
No, you're 100% right. LeBron, what is he going to accomplish playing 20 minutes in the preseason?
Could you think LeBron could have survived in the Kobe Jordan era?
Survive, yes. Prosper, I'm not so sure. Allow me to explain. You got to talk about competition. So when we talking about competition,
Rasheed Wallace's interview didn't just drop a take, it lit a fuse in the powder keg of NBA generational politics. Almost immediately, the basketball world fractured into two distinct warring camps. The line was no longer about who was better, it was about what kind of greatness deserved ultimate reverence. The old school brigade rallied behind Sheed with a visceral understanding. Charles Barkley on Inside the NBA nodded along. "He's not lying," Barkley said. Mike's respect came from a place of terror. You were scared to disappoint him, scared to play against him. LeBron's respect is different. It's admiration. It's, wow, look at all he does. It's not the same feeling. Even mild-mannered legends like Reggie Miller tweeted cryptic agreements. Fear is a non-negotiable currency in certain locker rooms. Once you've spent it, you understand the difference. This camp framed LeBron's career as a magnificent, friendly takeover, a corporate merger of talent. Jordan's was a hostile, terrifying acquisition. But the new school alliance fired back with ferocious defensiveness. Current stars saw the attack as an attempt to devalue their entire era's style of play. Kevin Durant tweeted, "So now being smart, making your teammates better, and having a long career is a bad thing? LOL, y'all just hate that the game evolved." Draymond Green on his podcast was more pointed. They're mad because their way of doing things, beating guys up, iso ball, not caring about efficiency, is extinct. LeBron didn't just beat their records, he made their whole philosophy look outdated. Calling him a CEO is a compliment. He's the boss because he's smarter. The most telling defense, however, came from within LeBron's own hallowed 2003 draft class. Dwayne Wade gave a heartfelt interview. What Bron has done to sustain this, to be the CEO and the best employee for 20 years, that's a different kind of warrior. Maybe they don't recognize that kind of fight because it doesn't look like swinging fists. It looks like lifting everyone up while carrying the heaviest load. This framed LeBron not as avoiding a fight, but as fighting a more complex, enduring war, a war of attrition against time, expectations, and entropy itself. The battle lines exposed a raw cultural nerve. This was about more than two players. It was a clash over the very definition of legacy. Is it forged in the white-hot, terrifying fire of individual dominance, or in the sustained, warming blaze of collective elevation? Rasheed Wallace, by calling LeBron a CEO, had accused him of choosing the latter, and in the eyes of the old guard, that choice made all the difference. The debate was no longer a comparison. It was a trial, and the charge was that LeBron had committed the sin of being too complete, too smart, and not monstrous enough. The public war of words is one thing, but the private impact on LeBron is another. How does a man who has heard every criticism for 2 decades process an attack that questions the core of his competitive identity? The answer lies in a pattern of behavior we've all missed. The next chapter goes inside the mind of the king. Subscribe to see the hidden cost.
Like, that longevity has to mean something. There has to be a standard. Like, if you really, truly want to know what greatness is like, of course you can accumulate championships in a short amount of time and accolades in a short amount of time. You can have a nice, quick spurt of moment, but like, I truly appreciate somebody who's been in that shit for a long time.
Something you have discussed before is just your high IQ, and of course we see it when we are watching you play. Tell me some guys around the league that you look at and say, that is what it means to have high basketball IQ.
Like LeBron obviously is like, I think.
In the days following the firestorm, the world waited for LeBron James to respond. Would he clap back on social media, deliver a fiery soundbite after a game, the typical playbook for modern Chou-Xing? Instead, LeBron offered silence, but it was a loud, calculated, and devastating silence. He understood that arguing with Rasheed Wallace on his terms, a war of gritty, old-school aesthetics, was a trap. You cannot out-real a provocateur from the 90s. So LeBron chose to respond in the only language his critics seemed to disdain, the cold, flawless language of corporate efficiency. His next 5 games were not basketball performances. They were quarterly reports delivered on hardwood. He averaged a near triple-double, 31 points, 10 assists, 9 rebounds on staggering 58% shooting. But the numbers were just the headline. The article was in the details. Every possession was a masterclass in systems management. He manipulated defenses not with overwhelming force, but with prescient reads, creating wide-open shots for the weakest offensive players on the roster. He targeted mismatches with surgical strikes. In one critical late-game moment against a top-tier contender, he didn't take the heroic contested game winner. Instead, he drew 3 defenders and kicked out to a rookie in the corner for the open game-winning 3. After the shot sank, he didn't roar, he simply pointed at the rookie, a CEO acknowledging a valuable employee's contribution. This was the ultimate retort. He was weaponizing the very CEO label against his detractors. He was saying, you call me a CEO? Watch me close the biggest deals under pressure. Watch my company thrive because of my leadership. You admire the warlord who takes a hill alone? I am the general whose army takes the entire territory without him firing the final shot. His brilliance became a passive-aggressive manifesto. He was demonstrating that his brand of control, orchestrating total victory without the cathartic individual violence, was not a weakness, but a superior, more evolved form of power. Post-game, when asked about Rasheed's comments, he gave a thin, knowing smile. I'm just trying to play the right way and get wins for my guys. All that other stuff is just noise for the algorithm. The word algorithm was the final twist of the knife. He dismissed the entire emotionally charged old-school debate as mere data input for the social media machine, a system to be optimized and ignored, just like a defense. In one sentence, he framed his critics as content creators, while he remained the unstoppable, operational reality. The warlord fights the battle in front of him. The CEO changes the nature of the war. LeBron won the week on the court, but can you win a war over legacy with quarterly reports? The final judgment doesn't come from stats or even wins. It comes from the one jury LeBron has never been able to sway, the ghosts of the past and their loyal subjects. The most damning testimony is still to come. Subscribe for the final haunting verdict.
First time, I literally couldn't believe it was him. I couldn't believe it. Like, people, I felt the dude looked like Jesus Christ to me. He looked like he was Black Jesus to me. Nobody could tell me anything different. When I was in Chicago, Maverick and I and our good friend G, they take us to hoops. I'm going there. And before they play, they say, Mike, off.
Back then, that shit was hard.
So his bag is his
jelly rolls.
So Jordan's bag was very, very elite if you're looking at what his bag actually was.
LeBron's on-court masterclass was a definitive answer in the present tense. The war for MJ-level respect isn't adjudicated by present achievements. It's a historical trial presided over by ghosts, and the jury is composed of every player, coach, and fan who lived through the 90s. And from that shadowy jury box, a verdict began to emerge, not in statements, but in subtle, cultural dismissals that no triple-double can erase. It showed in the tone of documentaries and legacy panels. When discussing Jordan, the language was mythic, hushed, speaking of a force of nature and unapproachable aura. When discussing LeBron, even in praise, the language was analytical, impressed, historical longevity, basketball IQ, unprecedented all-around impact. The difference is the difference between describing a hurricane and a brilliant engineer who designed a dam. One commands awe, the other commands admiration. Rasheed's CEO frame had stuck, providing the perfect dismissive shorthand for this very distinction. Most damningly, it showed in the continued reverence from Jordan's vanquished foes. Legends like Patrick Ewing, John Stockton, and Charles Barkley, men whose championship dreams Jordan personally incinerated, still speak of him with a shuddering respect that borders on trauma. They hate that he beat them, but they believe in his supremacy on a cellular level. Conversely, LeBron's greatest rivals, from the Detroit Pistons of his early career to the Golden State Warriors dynasty, praise his greatness, but often with a tone of strategic appreciation. They talk about game planning for him rather than fearing him. They discuss his passing and intelligence. The emotion is professional respect, not visceral terror. This emotional gap, this absence of haunted reverence from his opponents, is the unbridgeable chasm Wallace pointed to. You can earn a rival's analysis. You must take their fear. This is the cruel, unsolvable puzzle of LeBron's quest. His career has been a monumental act of building, of stats, teams, businesses, and a personal brand of sustained excellence. But myth isn't built, it's carved from the broken spirits of others. Jordan's respect was cemented in the ruins of his competitors' psyches. LeBron, by being a magnanimous CEO who elevates teammates and acknowledges greatness in others, may have systematically made it impossible to ever harvest that same dark crop of total psychological conquest. In trying to be the greatest, he may have proven too human, too relatable, too sane to ever be feared like a god. The courtroom of history has heard the case, but one final personal question remains. Does LeBron James, in his private moments, care? Does the CEO crave the Warlord's respect? The answer defines the final chapter of this saga, and it's more heartbreaking than any championship loss. The conclusion is not about basketball, it's about peace. Subscribe for the last word.
Let me ask you this then, from that standpoint, because we had a moment where there were moments you would look up at the crowd, mid-game, emotional, and act as if they were there, right? So you were huge, the one of the biggest leaders in making sure that bubble, the restart, happened.
Yeah.
So when you experience all of that for the first time, were you disappointed? Were you mad? Were you like, ah? Oh.
It's funny as fuck. So here I am, rookie. Terry Cummings is on his way out, but at the time he's playing.
In the quiet after the storm, a revealing truth emerged. The relentless pursuit of MJ-level respect that had defined the external narrative of LeBron's career may have never been his own primary driver. Those close to him suggest a more nuanced reality. LeBron didn't crave Jordan's specific kind of fear-based reverence. He craved a recognition of his own unprecedented category of greatness. The Rasheed Wallace controversy, instead of wounding him, provided the final, clarifying data point. Insiders point to his behavior in the offseason following the uproar. He wasn't brooding or crafting a fiery rebuttal. He was immersed in the opening of his new sports performance academy, deep in production meetings for his space movie, and attending his son Bronny's collegiate games. The CEO label, intended as an insult, seemed to fit him with a comfortable, even proud finality. He was not a warlord on a haunted hill. He was the chairman of the board of a vast, multifaceted empire called LeBron James, with basketball as its most profitable and prestigious division. This is his ultimate unassailable victory. He ended the debate not by winning it, but by transcending its terms. The old guard measures a legacy in ring and the terrified silence of opponents. LeBron measures his in generations influenced, billions in value created, families empowered, and a sporting reign so long it defies physics. The Warlord's respect is etched in trophies and the memories of his victims. The CEO's legacy is a living, breathing, growing conglomerate. When asked in a rare, reflective interview what he hoped his basketball epitaph would be, he finally addressed the ghost. He was the standard, the invincible standard. My goal was never to be him. My goal was to see if I could build my own standard, right next to his, made out of different materials. One isn't brick and the other wood. They're just different buildings. Both can house greatness. With that, he made peace. He granted Jordan his fearful, untouchable temple and claimed for himself a sprawling, inclusive, ever-expanding metropolis.
Rasheed Wallace was right. LeBron James will never earn Michael Jordan's kind of respect. But in a stunning twist, the revelation of that truth has become LeBron's ultimate liberation. By accepting he could never be the mythical, feared warlord, he fully embraced his destiny as the revolutionary, empire-building CEO. He stopped fighting a ghost and fully inhabited his own colossal shadow. The war isn't over because one man defeated the other. It's over because one man changed the definition of victory. Jordan's legacy is a monument, beautiful, static, and forever revered. LeBron's is a thriving city, loud, evolving, and constantly breaking new ground. So, who has the greater legacy, the god in the temple or the king of the city? The answer depends on what you value more, awe or impact. Let us know in the comments. For deep dives into the battles that define sporting immortality, hit subscribe. We analyze the wars